Hi, North Haven. So this video is just going to cover what PearDeck does. It's kind of like somewhere between a mix of Kahoot and Edpuzzle, but with slides or PowerPoint presentations, because what you can do with it is you can either make a presentation that you're pacing in your classroom where you have it up on your screen and the students are answering questions on their devices, or you can have them just do it completely on their own, which would be great for if you have a substitute come into the class, or if a student needs to work on their own for a day, or if they're home, or even just as an assignment if you're doing a little bit of a flipped classroom thing. So what that looks like, what you would do is you come in and I opened it up from my drive. I come down, under add-ons, and I come to PearDeck for Google Slides. I open PearDeck for Google Slides. From here, I click Start Lesson, and I have my two different options. I can do the student-paced activity or the instructor-paced activity. And the student-paced is kind of like the Edpuzzle type version where the students have the slide presentation. They can answer the questions on their own at their own pace, and then you'll see what they answered. The instructor-paced activity is where you're presenting it in front of the classroom. So once I choose which one I want, I did the instructor-paced, it's going to take me over to PearDeck. It's going to open it and give me a code. There's also a link. So if you were teaching virtually, or if you wanted them to get it through Google Classroom, you could just put the link into Google Classroom. Or if you have younger students, you can use this link and then push it out with GoGuardian so that their computers just go right to it. So that's an easy way to make this work with the youngest learners that we have. For your older kids, you can just have them go to joinpd.com and then put in this code. Once they've put it in, it's going to ask them to either join if they haven't joined or log in if they already have logged in, and you'll want them to use their Google account. Every time they come in for one, it's going to ask them for just a check-in to see how they're feeling, and they can skip it if they want to. And then this is what it will look like for them on their computer. So this is two of my students right here. And you'll see that there's no way for them to go forward. If this was a student-paced one, down here on the left, there would be arrows for them to go backwards and forwards and control it themselves. Once students have joined, you click Start Class. Now, from this is what your screen would look like. Down on the left, you have your arrows to go back and forth through the presentation. On the right, you have the ability to add prompts from them. So there are some premium features that aren't available for when you're creating your slides presentation. But during class, if you know that they're here and you know you want to use them, then you can pull those in class if you want to kind of use the premium aspects without having access to them. And then over here, you can make it full screen. I did want to show you a lot of times with PearDeck, the exciting thing is the dashboard and be able to see the student answers. You don't have access to the dashboard as a free version, but you can still see student answers. It's just going to be anonymous. So what you'd be looking at instead is like group data instead of specific student data while you're presenting. So it would be really good maybe as a exit ticket type thing, or just like really informal formative assessment, or a do now at the beginning of class, but it's not going to necessarily be something where you're collecting specific student data the way that you can use Edpuzzle for. So what I would do is I'd go through my presentation until I get to a screen that has a question on it. And then my students, this is what it would look like on the student side. Now that we're at one that has a question, on the left, they have the slide. On the right, they have a place where they can put in their answer. Another nice thing, if it helps your students organize, if you have more than one question on a slide, they can click Add Another Response, and they can put in more than one response and separate them, just to help them make sure they're answering all of the questions. Once students have started answering, you have a couple different options that show up here on the bottom. One, you can lock their screens after you've decided it's been enough time. If you say, hey, you have 2 minutes or 30 seconds or whatever, then you can lock it when you're done. And the other one is you can show responses. And so, like I said, these are anonymous responses, which is nice because there's less pressure on the kids because their names don't go up on the board. You can either do this grid layout, which kind of shows you more responses, or you can do the timeline style that comes through like this. So this is a multiple choice question, and the way that looks like for the students is this. So You on your screen are going to just have your slide, but the student screen is going to look like this, where they have the multiple choice answers over on the right. And then the same thing, you can show responses, and this time it's going to give them a bar graph, so you can see and you can even let it go if it's more of like a poll type situation versus a right or wrong answer, and you can see which students answered the most and kind of have a conversation about it at that point. And same thing as before, you can lock their screen so that they're no longer able to change their answer, or if they haven't answered yet, add an answer. So the last thing that you can do with the free version is embed a website, and this is what that's going to look like. On yours, you just see the gray bar at the bottom with the website listed. But on the students version, what that looks like is they can still see the slide on the left side of their screen, but they can also see the website on the right side, and they can even interact with it. So those are the major things that you can do with PearDeck or add to your slides with PearDeck. And the next video is going to cover how you actually add those things to your slides.